Okay, let's dive into a player that I think is about to become a star. Now, this player is famous mainly because, and typically when this happens, when you become famous for something that happens in the offseason before you're drafted, I usually red flag you because it's usually like jumping out of a pool or like a dude pushing a truck up Mount Everest. I mean, we've seen it all at this point, right? A dude carrying a house on his shoulder training. So it's like, listen, Saquon Barkley used to have videos that went viral of him squatting like 800 pounds, and then he'd gash Michigan, gash Wisconsin, gash Ohio State. He always backed it up, and he was king of videos going viral for doing freaky stuff, but then he backed it up with great play. I don't pretend to watch much Ole Miss football over the last several years. They've been really shitty. I watch Alabama, I watch LSU, I watch Georgia. I watch the really good teams. I watch the games that are on CBS out west at 12:30. It used to be with Vern forever. Now it's with I don't even know the play-by-play guy, but it's my favorite game when it's LSU Bama, right? Texas A&M Auburn, Georgia Florida. It's a great game. CBS pays hundreds of millions of dollars for the rights. They actually pay a pretty cheap deal. I think it's going to ABC here in a couple years, but it's been the number one television product on Saturdays for a handful of years now, beside the big Ohio State games. And when the picture of DK Metcalf went viral, I said, is this guy even human? We all laughed at it, right? Because he made A.J. Brown, who was the better player in theory, and still might be, we'll see, he might be a star too, look like me. I was like, who is this guy? Is this guy, in the strongman competition? He made David Boston look strong. And it turns out David Boston was just steroids. It was like, what is this? And then he goes to the combine. He runs 4.2. I start texting people, is this guy going to go in the top 10? I got a lot of responses like LOL / that was really impressive. And then he gets drafted to Seattle Seahawks. And the one thing we know in football, basically like the opposite of baseball, it's not a plug-and-play sport. I can trade for the best third baseman in baseball. Let's just say it's Matt Chapman of the A's or Nolan Arenado of the Rockies. And I need a third baseman. I just plug that guy in at third base. I put him at third in my lineup, and he dominates. Let's say I need a number one starter. There's no such thing as fit. I just go pay a guy $200-300 million, Max Scherzer, Garrett Cole, and he's my ace. And he starts shoving it down your throat. Well, in football, if I run a zone running scheme and I pick a guy that is not comfortable in the zone running scheme, he can be a really talented running back and look bad. Just like I can make a guy that can look pretty average on college film and put him in that zone running scheme, and he'll look good. It's been happening for years. The Shanahan family has made a living off of it. So the fit in football is very, very important. We definitely see it often on defense. Like some teams aren't comfortable with 6'3" corners. Pete Carroll lives for them. There's a reason Richard Sherman goes in the 5th round. Now, maybe he would have became a star anyway, but he went to the perfect fit in Seattle. And what I see with DK Metcalf is, listen, I don't pretend. I watched some YouTubes of him when he got drafted, and a highlight tape can make anyone look sweet, and his highlight tape looks sweet. But I remember last year I went to the Monday night game at Levi Stadium against Seattle. And he had already been making some plays, and he was obviously on our radar again because of that picture. And then the video that went viral of Pete Carroll taking off his shirt. But it's fair to say that Russell Wilson is the best deep ball thrower in the league. He throws the most beautiful deep ball. Doesn't mean he has the strongest arm. It doesn't mean he throws the hardest. He just throws the best deep ball in the league. And I think DK Metcalf, right now as I'm sitting here on August 17th, 2020, is probably the best deep ball. Maybe Stephon Diggs. I mean, he'd be on the short list of guys. If I had a deep ball thrower like a Russell Wilson, that's what ultimately the Bills want with Josh Allen. Now, he's got to complete those balls. Russell does. But you know what I'm saying. DK Metcalf's on the short list of that, of the guys I'd want. Deshaun, for a long, long period of time, was that guy. It's hard to find him because a lot of guys we see come through look fast. They don't necessarily look like DK, but we've seen a lot of guys 4.3 that are just hauling ass by corners, and then they can't catch a cold, or they're just not that skilled. They don't have good ball skills. But I've been seeing this guy go viral the last couple days on social media, And then I've seen some headlines like DK Metcalf is stealing the show. But what I saw that night at the Monday Night Football game, because it was clear early on, like this guy's pretty skilled, good fit, is Richard Sherman was lining up over him. And I was watching, like, I wonder if this guy's going to be a little intimidated by Richard. And because they run the ball a lot, and DK would go right after him. Now, he wouldn't necessarily win or whatever, but he wasn't scared. I'm like, I like this guy. He ain't flinching against arguably one of the best, if not the best corner in the league. Definitely the toughest corner in the league. Definitely a guy, if you're not tough, he's going to intimidate you. And DK wasn't hesitating. And they were tossing each other around. I mean, DK's huge too. And I was like, God, I like this guy. And then as the season went on, he kept making plays. In that playoff game against the Eagles, I was like, damn. He had 11 catches in the playoffs in 2 games. He obviously had 58 catches, 7 touchdowns. I think we're looking at a future star. He's in the perfect fit. He's got a quarterback in the peak of his powers who does what he needs him to do perfectly. Because I was texting with a player in the league who played against DK. And I said, what do you think? And they're like, I was actually really impressed. He's pretty talented. But you can see laterally, he's going to be a little straight line. He's not going to be, Antonio Brown or Julian Edelman. Like, he's not the most, I would say his change of direction is not great. He's a little stiff. But in terms of the go, the post, anything deep breaking, he could dominate. And he should, and he might dominate at those routes. Because he's faster, he's bigger, and he clearly has pretty good ball skills. And then as a wide receiver, you're very dependent on the guy throwing you the ball. Well, he's playing with a Hall of Fame quarterback that throws the go and the post as well as any quarterback in the league. So if he had 58-7 last year when they were kind of still forcing the run, and I saw a quote from Russell Wilson the other day, like, hopefully we can start approaching some of these games with the urgency that we have in the fourth quarter where we throw the ball all the time earlier in the game. So I think Seattle's point differential last year was atrocious. I swear someone told me the other day it was 7. I don't want to, I'm in the middle of a rant, don't want to Google it, but it was not great. They were constantly in tight games. Every single Seattle game looked the same. It was like a tie game with 7 minutes left. And it shouldn't be that way. That they should take advantage of lesser teams. And a part of that, and I think a lot of like football people push back, Pete forces the run. We'll see. Maybe they'll change a little bit. What will force them to change is this guy DK Metcalf hauling ass down the sideline wide open because you'll start throwing that ball to him. And I see, and I've seen this since they started even doing walkthroughs, the chemistry that Russell and DK have already feels pretty special. Listen, I'm more of a daily fantasy guy than a full year fantasy guy, but if you're a fantasy football person and you're going to draft, I would think about this guy relatively high. Because if you said, John, what would you imagine if DK really breaks through a big year for him would be? I'd be like 88 and 12 touchdowns. I think we're looking at a star. And I think his teammate's going to be a star too, his college teammate, A.J. Brown. You're looking at those two guys. It'll be one of those Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham situations where you look back and you go, how the hell didn't Ole Miss win more games? And this is often where in the scouting circles, we tend to think if a guy is being underutilized but he's really talented, we don't put much stock into whatever that coach says at that given program. We look at that coach, go, yeah, you're probably screwing this up. This is probably on you. You have way too much NFL talent here to be a 5-6 win team. Now, I know DK battled some injuries, and that's, when you're that tightly built and that big, pulling hamstrings and soft tissue injuries are always going to be something to monitor. Sure looks like he was pretty healthy last year. Sure looks like these visuals I'm getting from the Seahawks Twitter account, again, take it with a grain of salt, but I saw him do this in games last year. He looks pretty damn good. I think this is one of those guys, and it comes up on you fast, right? It just, whoa, all of a sudden he's an 80, 90 catch guy. It happened with Michael Thomas, right? It happened, I think it was year 3 with Devontae Adams. It just happens. And this guy's already on the radar because he had a good rookie season. And he's healthy. I just think the fit, I think just the chemistry that he already has with Russell, his physical attributes, and just how hard it is to play defensive back in 2020, right? You can't really hit him, so you can't really intimidate him. he's going to be bigger than every corner he goes up against besides Sherman, that we're looking at a star here. DK Metcalf, Pro Bowler? Don't be shocked when it happens at the end of this year. What's up, everybody? My name is John Middlekauff, and I host a show for Colin Cowherd called 3 and Out on his podcast network. You can subscribe to wherever you listen to your podcast. I worked in the NFL as a scout for Andy Reid and Howie Roseman, and I've been talking about football for the last 7 years. If you like your football talk, raw and unfiltered, no BS, I'm your guy. Subscribe to 3 and Out right now.